You're still high on energy or not really? Yes? You're ready for another session? So this is the session from CMS to platform, how to build a future-proof digital ecosystem with Drupal. And I want to start with a couple of questions to you actually. And I'm curious, who is mostly in his work a developer? Right, half of the group roughly. And who is like a digital strategist, project manager? The other half probably. Wonderful. So, who thinks Drupal is a CMS? Raise your hands if you say yes. Not everybody. Who thinks it's a platform? Also, so I mean, we should probably define what we mean with a platform. Who of you think that Drupal is a headless solution? 1, 2, 3. Okay, not so much. Who of you think Drupal is a no-code solution? Nobody. Really? Really? Getting there. Okay, so my presentation is in this realm, and so what you will learn, I think we should rethink Drupal as a scalable digital platform. I will try to explain what I mean with a digital ecosystem in the realm of content management, and I will also share my thoughts on the future of enterprise Drupal. Does that sound good for you? Yeah, okay, wonderful. So my name is Lukas. I run NetNode, a digital agency in Switzerland. We use Drupal since 2007. So I actually used the very end of Drupal 5 when CCK came on. So a long time Drupal user. And we built the NodeHive product, which is a Drupal solution and headless Drupal solution built on top of Drupal. And so this talk is not about NodeHive, but I will share a lot of my learnings of building this platform. And so a lot of the talk is about my experience with that. Just to quickly explain what it is, NodeHive Headless CMS is the go-to solution for building decoupled frontends on top of Drupal. That's our vision. And it's fully open source. So it's not a product in the sense that you have to buy a SaaS solution or so. So it's fully open source. And this is the dashboard. So when you log in to NodeHive, what you will see is not the admin/content view or something like that, but you see different digital experiences. So you can manage multiple digital experiences from one Drupal backend. Yeah, in my private life, I'm a passionate gardener. So I'm also a passionate composter. So if I could actually stop talking about Drupal. We can talk about composting if you like. We can do that after that. Yeah, I also play, I'm a professional amateur pianist, and I also like to cycle. And earlier this year, I started a YouTube channel, The Modern Web Architect. I also cover Drupal topics a lot. So I made a couple of podcasts like with, for example, with Jamie from the AI track, and also with Jürgen from ECA, but also lots of AI topics. So super passionate about this project, so please consider subscribing. So let's start with the topic about rethinking Drupal. I think you saw a similar slide on any digital transformation presentation in the last 15 years. So the world has changed. Yes, it has changed. And actually it has changed again. So if you think about today's user interacting with a brand or with an organization, he probably uses a campaign website. The main corporate website is subscribed to a newsletter. Now recently maybe uses a chat UI, AI-driven UI. Maybe he's using a product website campaign, maybe using the mobile website, and maybe even using some MCP integration. So a user has many touch points with a brand. And I'm a bit confused. So yesterday was the keynote of Dries, and then he showed this wonderful canvas in Drupal CMS. So what we come up with as a Drupal community is Drupal CMS. But if we look at the world and what customers and how they interact, It's multiple touch points, multiple channels, but we come up with Drupal CMS. So I see a big gap in that, and we celebrate Drupal CMS, and I'm absolutely not against Drupal CMS. I think it covers a very valid thing. And actually, if you look at the strategy document, and this is unfortunately a little bit outdated, it's over 2 years old, the Drupal Starshot product strategy. Quickly open up that. So this is the Starshot product strategy, and it says in the summary, Drupal Starshot aims to empower marketers to create exceptional digital experiences without relying on developers setting the gold standard for no-code website building. So, okay, that's nice. I still challenge it that this is the today's world and this is the answer. I'm not sure. If we look where we would put Drupal as a technology in the CMS landscape, and I just picked a couple of brands here. So let's start with the low budget, low complexity, maybe Squarespace, Wix, Webflow, and then we have WordPress, Strapi, like headless solutions, and then more enterprise solutions like Adobe Experience Manager and others. But where is Drupal in here? And it seems that Drupal CMS is maybe competing there, but it's actually also competing higher up, and it's also competing higher up, right? And Drupal CMS solves the low to mid-market problem to gain lots of adoption. But what about the enterprise projects or even the bigger mid-market projects? And what is the solution? What is the Drupal product there? And I find it a bit sad that yesterday in the keynote we were only talking about basically Squarespace, Drupal as a Squarespace competitor. Okay, this is very rough words, but there is a lot of hope actually. So when you do research, and there is actually a Drupal issue, and it's quite fresh, it's from 1st July, and Dries actually announced the new Drupal core strategy. I don't know if you're aware of this document, it was a bit below the surface, but when you read that, it sounds very, very compelling. So Drupal core strategy, very fresh from this summer. The winning aspiration for Drupal core is Drupal core, the platform for building customized CMS solutions. And I quickly read that through. Drupal core is a platform that empowers both low-end users and experienced web developers to create powerful, user-friendly CMS solutions. It supports a broad spectrum of projects, from no-code tools like Drupal CMS, which allows marketers and content creators to manage and publish content effortlessly, to advanced high-code architectures designed by skilled developers, including headless CMS solutions. So I like that a lot. It's pretty cool. So just to summarize that again, Drupal core is the platform for building customized CMS solutions. And it clearly states the word platform in a very strong sense, and it's also described in the document. But then I asked myself, well, what does it even mean? What does it mean, this phrase, this aspiration? And I want to tell you a little story. So we got approached by a museum in Switzerland 2 years ago, and they came to us and they said, you know, we have an old website, outdated technology, 10 years old. We need a new website. And actually, we have a second museum on the same roof, and we kind of want the same solution, and you know, we want a new platform. And then we started to talk to them, and what they actually needed, yes, they needed this main website, and yes, they needed the second website, but they also had the idea to create digital guides and not rely on a paid service. They want to have an integrated solution. They also want to cross-sell the tickets. And by the way, they also have a B2B area, so they can rent out their location. They also need to target this group. They also have a new architecture project, so they also want to communicate that on a website. They also maybe want to show their digital collection at one point. They want to integrate marketing. So you see. I don't know about you, if you get RFPs or website requests. Is this a likely case, or are you just requested by one project? So in my experience, there is much more behind than just one website, right? So what they actually need, clients need a scalable digital platform to manage multiple digital experiences. Another website. And funny enough, we found, besides these two main websites they had, the old ones, we found at least 7 WordPress sites. One was for a podcast project, the other one was for a research project, they had to publish something. And it's often the cheaper option to simply spin up a WordPress site by some random freelancer, and they even forgot about these microsites that they have it. I don't know if it's also your experience, but sometimes people change and content lies around, and they complain about their search results, and they find out that they have actually websites which are under their control. Right, so now I come to the point. So obviously we need something like a digital ecosystem. And how can we build that with Drupal? Again, we need to think beyond a simple website or beyond one website. And this is the blueprint, roughly. So what you see here is, at the bottom, you see multiple experiences. It could be 2, it could be 10. Then we have Drupal as the content hub, whatever you want to call it. In between, we need some kind of system which is managing the experiences or orchestrates the different experiences. And obviously, Drupal does not come alone. Most of them we need to integrate some sort of CRM, whether it's a simple newsletter tool to Salesforce. We need to integrate the product information management system. We need to integrate the point of sale system. And yeah, so this is basically the blueprint of a digital ecosystem. Whereas we could also build a couple of Drupal websites that just live next to each other. We have to maintain all them and integrate maybe third-party solution on each of the websites. And this is actually what we built for this museum in Switzerland. So it's the Zentrum Paul Klee Kunstmuseum Bern. And this is the actual architecture from a very high-level perspective. So we have Drupal Nodehive. Nodehive itself provides this experience orchestration layer, and it's fully decoupled. So we have here the 2 main websites that obviously pull information, the calendar, the exhibitions, ticket sales. We use Drupal Commerce. Ticket sales go through, and we also sync the sales with Arcavis, which is the point of sale system they have in-house. So it's in sync. So if they sell tickets physically, it's also syncing with the, for example, currently available spots for how do you say, a guided tour, for example. But then we can also attach the guides. So we have we pull artwork info, audio, video, and we also let them give feedback through the guide. But then we also have this B2B platform. So it's not a separate website, but it's in a subdirectory, and I will quickly show that how that looks at in real. There we pull other information, and we also use web forms to then get inquiries. And then also we have the architect project, where we have project information, FAQ and press, and we send back other information. So this turns out to be a very powerful solution. We have one backend. We only have to maintain one backend. We have 2 main websites. We have multiple special interest websites. We have many, many digital guides. I was surprised myself how quickly they add these digital guides. And we have 3 major integrations, and it's easy to maintain and add new experiences. So this was a little bit abstract, but I want to show a demo actually, and I log into their backend. So once I'm logged in, this is how it looks like. So you see here the main web experiences. So we have the main websites, the B2B platform, Crea Viva is for family and kids museum. This is the other major museum and the architectural project. Also we have the guides here. So you see many guides. So for each exhibition, they create a guide. What's nice about this, you can go into a preview mode here. And in here, you can, for example, browse the website if you want to, but you can also switch the main domain with just selecting the space, and now it's loading that a specific digital experience right in the iframe here. I can also, for example, load up a guide. Voila. So I have here the digital guide. I can also preview the guide. And this is only possible because we drive these digital experiences from one backend, one central backend. And adding a space is super simple. You just go here. You see at the moment you have 40 spaces, and most of them are guides. You just add a new space. You give it a name. You enable the content types you want to be able there. You can add users. You can define the main URL. And then you can configure a couple of things. You enabled it, and then you have a new digital experiences you can build on top of it. So that's the demo. I could show you much more, but I want to have time for questions and can show more if there is interest. So how does it work? Obviously, it's fully decoupled. That's the kind of the limitation, if you want to say it like that. It's an architectural decision. You have to decouple it. Then you have complete freedom in the front end. So we have Drupal with JSON API or GraphQL. Then we offer, for Node-Hive, we offer an SDK. So the Node-Hive JavaScript library is like an SDK. It's built to load data from the backend as easy as possible. And on the front end, you have really freedom. You can select whatever front end framework you want. Our preferred solution is Next.js, but we also used Astro in the past and also Nox. And just this morning, I talked to somebody who uses a similar architecture. They also use PHP in the front end. So why not use a small PHP stack? It could be Laravel, Symfony, pull data from a Drupal backend and actually host that on a site. Why not? So with this architecture or this idea, it's certainly possible. Right, the future of enterprise Drupal. Yes, I think we have to embrace headless and with that a layer of experience management. So I'm talking specifically about this layer. Drupal core out of the box does not provide a real good solution for multi-site solution on the same database, not multi-site with multiple databases. So we need some kind of orchestration layer. Our Node-Hive solution comes with that, with the spaces idea where you can switch these spaces. And then if you have that, if you go the headless route, you have the freedom to add multiple experience very easily. Why? Because we have very robust and very powerful APIs out of the box. JSON API is in core, and it's maintained and secured, and it's proven, and very powerful. If you like GraphQL, it's also very well supported. So why not just use this architecture, right? So the future of enterprise Drupal is, in my mind, headless. Yeah, also, I don't know, we are at the Drupal conference, for sure we talk a lot about Drupal, but why not also embrace modern front-end tools like these frameworks? If you compare statistics of adoption of these modern front-end frameworks, they are skyrocketing. If I look in the audience, on the average age, it's probably above 40. If I go to a React or front-end conference, it's roughly 25 years old. So we really need to embrace and use modern front-end technology. And I think it's also the future for enterprise Drupal to go that route, to go fully decoupled and actually build first-class integrations with these tools. There are many. So, for example, we offer starter kits for Next.js. You can basically just copy it and build your stuff with it. It took us a while to engineer that, so it's not easy to do. But I think we need to do that as a community to actually build the future of enterprise solutions. I also think, and this is not really related to the ecosystem idea per se, but we need no-code tools. So I very much liked the idea of Dries to build these orchestration features. So he was mentioning active pieces. But for example, also OpenAI with Agent Builder is there. N8N is one of the leaders, Zapier. And most of them we already have very strong integrations. Obviously, Drupal AI is offering very powerful AI capabilities for advanced, intelligent content operations, no matter you want to call it. I also think we should look much more into MCP. If you look at all the big AI players, they are heavily betting on MCP as a generalized interface. And so if we can build a Drupal with a first-class MCP support, I think this can also be a game changer. Yeah, so no-code tools, very important. Obviously integrations, this is something that Drupal is already strong. So for most of the key players and platforms, there are already tools available. Some are a bit clunky, we can improve that, make it more usable. But this is definitely something we are already strong as a Drupal community, but we should make it stronger. This is just a couple of logos to showcase the categories. I'm almost at the end. So what are the takeaways? So we need to rethink Drupal. Drupal is much more than a single website. And Drupal can be seen as a platform, as an ecosystem. So what is a digital ecosystem? Well, Drupal is the content backend and also should offer an orchestrator. It's run by many front ends and you kind of integrate the backend system or the third-party tools. Future of Drupal, future of enterprise Drupal is headless with experience management, modern front ends, no-code tools, and powerful integrations. I want to show again this graphic because I think it shows one little thing I didn't explain. So again, Drupal is the main core platform content hub, right? And Drupal itself comes with content types, taxonomy, permissions, and all that. What we need to think about if we want to build this kind of digital ecosystem structure, we need something like spaces, we need to think about AI and also about the visual editing. I got approached before, will Drupal Canvas work in these kinds of setups? I have an answer to that. But if you think about this architecture, you could even think web forms as kind of a microservice in this architecture, right? So typically, and this was actually in the session yesterday about Storyblock, he was a bit surprised that Storyblock doesn't offer form submissions, right? So if for us it's like, what? You cannot send form data to the backend? We say no, because if you typically want to do this, you may use HubSpot or Marketo or whatever marketing stack. But for us in Drupal, web forms is actually like a microservice, a very, very powerful microservice, and a first class even. And also commerce is actually like a plugin. You can think of it as, like a commerce microservice, but obviously within the Drupal code base. And then there are many, third-party back services, and actually this line here is very interesting. So when you fully decouple, you don't have to route all data through Drupal. So in the past, when we didn't work in this architecture, Drupal was the sole backend, and we have to import data, and didn't work or it worked or whatever. But why? So now we can build a portal, and the portal will pull data from the product information management system directly without going through Drupal at all. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, which I think if you have the single site Drupal in mind, you don't think about this flexibility. Right? Yeah, so that's it. Actually, I did a talk about, with the title The Future of Drupal is Headless last year. I won't go into the details, but I highly recommend to watch it because it has a lot of numbers and statistics to actually show that the Drupal system should also go in this direction, headless, because it's growing. It's actually exploding in these years, and yeah, Drupal is not really on the screen of the younger front-end developers. If you want to try Nodehive, this is a sales pitch. You can go on nodehive.com. There is docs, so there's a GitHub repo with the starter, and we also have a hosted version on cloud nodehive.com, so you can create your own backend and then start creating your first front ends with that. Yeah, that's it from my presentation. Are there any questions?
When you have all the content residing in the same database, how do you handle user authorization for content of different touch points?
Okay, the question is, how do I handle authentication for different touch points?
Yeah, because I mean, some user can edit content for a specific touch point, not for the others.
Yes. Yeah, so actually, when you create a space, you can assign users, and only the assigned users can basically add this specific space. So even the dashboard is personalized, so if you have access, it only shows the spaces you have access to. Yes, maybe the guy in the back. Yeah.
Can you describe the journey you took to decide to develop NetNode instead of, you look at other tools before you decided to develop the content orchestration tool yourself?
Yeah, we looked into Next Drupal. It's chapter 3 who made that solution. Back at the time, it didn't support the app directory of Next.js, which was very fresh then, and we wanted to go with the latest tech. And then we decided to, and we experimented with headless since, 2017. We really adopted headless only in Drupal in maybe 2022 or 2021. And since then we only built headless solutions. And 2 years ago we decided to actually make our own version of what we think is the best, which became Nodehive. And then instead of keeping it inside, we said, okay, why not share it with the community? So the module is Nodehive _ core on Drupal.org, and it holds all the functionality you would need from the orchestration side. Yeah. But I recommend you to use the installer, because there are some configurations you need for a proper setup. There was another question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Actually, the first one would be this Nodehive. When you look at it, it looks familiar with the Drupal interface, and then there are the spaces. What actually is spaces? Is it an entity, or is it based on taxonomies, or how can I put it into the Drupal?
Yeah, in the end, it's a content entity, custom content entity we created to handle this abstraction. Yeah.
And the rest is then put under it.
Right. So
like
this.
An entity reference or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, it's a combination. So Nodehive is Drupal core with lots of country modules, and then a little layer of Nodehive core, and kind of an opinionated way to do that, to make sense, to make this architecture possible.
Yeah, understood.
Yeah.
The second question would be, when it comes to high traffic, how can I say, endpoints, how is your experience with the API requests? Because as I worked on many headless projects, this was always the bottleneck, where many platforms and many servers go down because the API requests are firing so many requests that we all, in many projects, we had to program our own caching system for the API requests.
Yeah, so actually I have good news. I think it will take away all your problems. We just had in Switzerland a big sports event about Swiss wrestling. Maybe you know Swiss wrestling, Schwingen. So it's like a major national event. It only happens every 3 years. And one of our customers, they have a news magazine about this sport. And so we delivered, I don't know how many million page requests on one day, and it worked well. And how is the architecture? So maybe I quickly go back to this. So we have Node-Hive, and then we use JSON API, and then we have Next.js application which we replicate. So we can horizontally scale the front end. So we don't have to, build up complex, database replication. So it's one single website, one single Drupal database running on one VPS, even though it's a strong VPS. And then we have multiple caching layers. So we cache the JSON API from the backend to the front end. Then Next.js itself has a caching mechanism. And then on top of that, we cache again some stuff in front of the front end with Cloudflare. And with that, I was amazed. I thought, okay, now it breaks, and traffic went up, but it was super smooth in the backend. So with that control, because it's API based, you can very fine control what you want to cache, what needs to be updated when and how quickly, and no problem.
And especially the API caching, so the front-end cache is very straightforward, but the API caching part,
yeah.
Who or what is doing that? Did you create an own caching service?
No, it's Cloudflare CDN.
Even the API request?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And with JSON API, it's simple. You have a GET request. You can perfectly cache, and you override the Drupal cache in that sense. And we had the caching was set to 30 seconds, and then we lifted it to 90 seconds, which was enough. And it was hit like thousands of times during that 90 seconds, and zero traffic on the backend. Any other questions? Yeah.
So I'd like to know perhaps what are your thoughts about using Drupal Canvas and maybe even Drupal AI with the headless Drupal?
Yeah, I mean,
as an enterprise.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Drupal AI is not specifically. I mean, Drupal AI works just perfect because it just operates AI operations on content basically. Drupal Canvas is interesting, so I'm in close contact with Laurie and also Pauline to talk about it. This morning was a session how it could potentially support headless use cases, and it does. So there are options to basically use Drupal Canvas in a headless setup. But I also have an opinionated view on this, and actually I prepared that because I knew this question will come up. So this is just another project we are now working on. So it's a cultural calendar for Canton of Zug. And so it's also a Node-Hive instance. I open up the editor, and now I'm also on the website. And you see here, or I quickly open up a subsite to demo that. I just open up an empty page. So instead of let Drupal core or Drupal Canvas take the whole page editing experience, we do that on the front end. And here we use a tool called Puck Editor. It's a React editor framework, which is like a stripped down Drupal Canvas. So Drupal Canvas solves a lot of things, but what you get here is pretty similar experience. So you can add containers, you can add a grid, you can add a heading, you can add body copy, you can also add an image, then you can select an image, you can then place it, and you can save it. So it's pretty much the same experience. And you can control that in the front-end code. So our teams, so basically the backend is, we don't need any Drupal developers yet anymore, because the backend is only configuration like content types, whatever. And a lot of things happen then on the actual front end. And by the way, this is now in the iframe. I can also open up the front end directly, and the editor is even available there. So it's really working on the front end itself. And this is not the only editor. So if you are in the NPM ecosystem, there are many frameworks you can pick from. So you even get more freedom there. At one point you have to decide, okay, this is what we want, this is what we need. But you have a lot of flexibility. It's not that we need Drupal canvas in a headless setup, right? So there are options in that sense. Yeah.
I have a question relative to, so one of the interesting things is the age, so the new generation gap, like Astro, Next.js are particularly popular with new developers. They come from that, and they come to Next.js and they see, oh, I'm missing that, I'm missing that, I'm missing that, and the typical way they solve it is by contracting these other services that uses that. How can we make Drupal as so communicate? This is more a marketing question. How can we market the thing so that these developers consider Drupal as a valid service that they can fully own and will solve 80% of their problems they have?
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 ideas. Because just over lunch I had several discussions about that. I think first of all, Dries should mention headless in the keynote. So it was not mentioned at all. And
it was mentioned.
It was mentioned?
In a negative way.
Or even in a negative way. So this is certainly not helping, even though Drupal is a very powerful solution for these kinds of architectures. The second one is please build headless solutions. So it's a motivation for you. The third one, there will be actually a BOF tomorrow around 5 o'clock, and we will discuss about headless marketing in the Drupal community, inside and outside. And I actually came up with this idea and approached Fago from Lupus Decoupled and others to actually join forces and say, hey, Drupal is a first-class headless CMS, and you are invited to join, and hopefully you will be there, and we can build up the talk about that. Yeah. And the fourth is just use Node-Hive. Any other questions? So I'm around, so if you have questions, let me know. And super curious what you think about it. And I think, yeah, go headless.